Today's episode's all about being a hero or villain in 2022 and why it's probably not what you think. If we look at peak 90s and 2000s and some of the top stars of those eras, we often see that the lines between heel and babyface are completely blurred.
Harder to tell the good from bad, villains from heroes these days.
Stone Cold Steve Austin had every trait of a heel or villain. He was assaulting people, he was aggressive, he was drinking beer, all of these things that in a previous generation might not have been looked on too kindly, but we're looking at the biggest hero in the business. On the same note, Eddie Guerrero lies, cheats, steals, but the crowd love him. Kurt Angle, on the other hand, Olympic gold medalist, national hero, drinks milk, definitely doesn't drink that beer, loves his mum, biggest villain in the WWE. Why is that? Have the characters just completely swapped over? Is the key to being a heel being a babyface of the 80s? I don't think so. And I don't think that character traits have a definite part in the equation. Of course, certain character traits are often looked upon fondly or negatively, depending on your audience, depending on where you are. But we don't want to leave it up to a given audience's moral ground as to whether they boo or cheer you or follow along with the story. We want to make sure we can get the right reaction every single time. The simplest way to put it is a babyface gives the fans what they want and a heel takes it away. Much of being a villain in 2022 or in any era is about breaking expectation. And when I watch a lot of wrestling, you see babyfaces use a simple tempo. You see them make their comebacks, they hit their clothesline, they hit their elbow, they whip off, they hit their big move, they fire up. It follows a bam, bam, bam. We want to keep that tempo high. It's why heels are often taught to bump and feed with rapid pace and intensity. The heels just have to break that expectation. They have to cut the babyface off, not use the same expected tempos. This might look like slowing down the action when it was just heating up, or vice versa. In this sense, a heel doesn't necessarily need to just abandon their moveset. Too often when I was coming up, I got told, well, you're a heel, you can't do dives, you can't do flashy moves, because if your moves look good, the babyface won't get over. There is a semblance of truth to that, but it doesn't have to be the case. I mean, why would a heel who has recently turned into a villain, why would they just abandon their entire moveset? That doesn't make sense. When we look at some of the better heels in today's industry, a lot of them have the same moves as when they were babyfaces. And much of it, you could say, is quite flashy, but they can still get the right response based on their actions. So some simple ways to apply this to your work as a villain is just keep that rule in mind. Take away what the fans want. If the fans want the babyface to hit their big finishing move, tease it a bunch of times, cut it off a bunch of times, and pay it off at the end. Make the fans clamor to want to see that move being hit. And every time they think it's going to happen, you cut it off. We often teach the rule of threes in pro wrestling. It's a simple task in human psychology where you set up a move a couple of times to really establish a pattern, and then you break it a third time to wake up that audience and get them involved in the action. That's an awesome way as a villain or a babyface to get the right reaction. So I guess what I'm saying is that old school black and white approach to being a villain or a hero is kind of redundant. Think of it less in terms of character traits and more in terms of giving the fans what they want or taking it away. It sounds simple, but it will simplify the process and it'll ensure you get the right reaction no matter where you go. Thanks for watching this week's episode of World-Beater Wrestling. Of course, if you have any questions or comments, drop it in the comments box below. If you haven't already, hit that subscribe button, ring the notification bell, and I'll see you next week for another episode.
If you want to see more videos like this, click on the subscribe button, spread the word, and if you have any questions or requests for World-Beater Wrestling, don't be afraid to comment below.